There we go. Hey, I want to welcome everybody. I am really excited for this guest. We're trying to get the best people on here for the webinars, for learning, etc. And I want to introduce you guys to a gentleman that I met 11 years ago. And I think 11 years ago, you and I both spoke in Redondo Beach. I actually sat next to you during the panel question and answer. And I don't know if you remember that or not, but
Actually,
I wasn't giving him too many answers. I mean, when I had you sitting next to me, it's kind of hard to say a lot of answers. And then we actually spoke, I think, about 6 months to a year later in Arizona, and that was a lot of fun because that's the time where we got to go to the bar, and I got to talk to you for about an hour. And I thought, this is really cool. I'm talking to Dr. Filtzer, who I've heard so much about, and it's such a great honor to have you on this and to call you friend and being on here to answer a lot of questions. And I want to introduce Dr. Filtzer. He actually graduated from Harvard University, magna cum laude, and he asked me to not give a lot of kudos, but I think he kind of deserves it. And also, you've been teaching there for 30 years. Or you taught there for 30 years, Dr. Filtzer?
yes, I did. I was on the faculty of the university for actually 35 years.
35 years.
Mm-hmm.
And also was a chairman of Surgery Center, training other doctors in Cambridge.
Correct.
And he's just a plethora of information. And, I want to start off, Doc, thank you so much for being here. First of all, I want to first start off and talk about, which I thought was fascinating, which you really don't talk about that much, but we talked about it about 15 minutes ago. And I think it really says a lot with a person of your stature. Now, we've talked a lot about an hour ago about how they train people at Harvard University and how they basically teach you to not believe anything until it's proven. And for you, with your testimony on how you were introduced to the water where your friend came over, I thought that was fascinating. If you can give a little introduction, if we can go back 13 years ago or 12 years ago, when you were first introduced to this water and how your friend came over and we were doing surgery on him, that would be fantastic if we can start from the beginning.
Well, I think it's really kind of something out of the blue. I operated on a guy who had an aortic aneurysm, and everything was fine. And it turns out that we were actually classmates back in college at the University of North Dakota in the early 60s. And he needed to stay around, but he was from Las Vegas, had no place to stay, so I let him stay at my house. And he brings this crazy machine and puts it on my counter, and he says, "Doc, can I hook this up?" I said, "Knock yourself out, by all means. What is it?" And he said, "Well, it's an ionized water machine, and it's the best water you'll ever drink." I said, "Well, thank you very much." So there you go. And indeed, within a day or so, I started drinking the water. And when I did, I noticed there were distinct differences. So parenthetically, I have to tell you, I am not a huge water drinker ever. And this was different. It was instantly different. He gave me 9.5 pH water, and I was able to drink 16 ounces of it without feeling full, stuffed, distended or anything else. And the taste was precisely what water ought to be, which is odorless, colorless, and tasteless. There shouldn't be any funny, funky taste behind it. Water should be pure. And this met the ticket. And subsequent to that, I think that day I bought a machine.
Wow. Well,
by the way, I had no idea I would ever get involved in the business or anything else. And I've actually not sold any machines, but they asked me to make a DVD about my experience, and I did. And I guess the rest is history in that the company asked me to become their medical advisor.
So with your background, the way you were taught, for something to impact you so quickly in just one day, where you said to your friend, hey, I want to buy one of these machines, that's huge, especially with your training on being skeptical, this, that, and the other. So what was your next step? You're drinking the water, you're not feeling full, you're feeling better, you're having, probably more energy, things like that. So what made you really kind of take some more look at this and do some research on this?
Well, the company offered me a position to be their advisor and to promote the product after rational evaluation of what it did, and particularly to tout the product in a way that's accurate scientifically, and that shows that it really is distinct from ordinary tap water and all those myriads of waters you get on the shelf, which, if you look at them all put together, Dasani, Aquafina, all of these things, you put them all together, they're virtually no different than the tap water you get out of your tap from the city of Cambridge or the city of Los Angeles. In fact, I believe Dasani comes out of the city of Los Angeles. And it's basically city water run through a carbon filter. Okay, so there you go. And actually, when you look at all these waters combined, they're far more expensive than the purchase of a Kangen water machine, as expensive as it is. If you say that the machine lasts you at least 20 years, mm-hmm. It's a pittance what you pay for water. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so you did some research on this. You found some amazing discoveries. And for you to say that is one of the two greatest discoveries in your lifetime says a lot. And so what actually did you discover? What were you most impressed about with the water as you started doing research on it?
Well, I think, first of all, I was mostly impressed with two things. One, when I heard about the distributors, I went to meetings, I gave talks, and so on and so forth. There was a lot of information on the water that was based on non-human studies. Non-human studies. Now, in Japan, there were many studies done with the water in conjunction with a variety of diseases, and those studies resulted in the fact that Kangen water was approved as a medical device for gastrointestinal diseases by the Ministry of Health in Japan. What that basically means is that the ministry recognized that this water had health benefits. In a limited category, nevertheless, it had health benefits. Now, we haven't done that here, but we're working on it. Now, the other thing is that Kangen water research electrolyzed reduced water, basically that category. There are in thousands of publications on it, but none of them in human studies. They will tell you, for example, if you cut a flatworm in half and you put him in Kangen water, he'll regenerate 5 times as fast as without it. Well, in all fairness, who really cares? Do you actually really care about a flatworm? I don't, I'm sorry. Perhaps that makes me politically incorrect, but I'm basically saying to you, we did not have enough studies that show the benefit in living human beings. And thanks to Mr. Oshiro, I was able to finagle some money out of him. And we started studies in human tissue culture. And the reason for that is human tissue culture can show effects as it would in the total human body, but at a far lesser price. When you take human beings and you subject them to studies with anything, cancer drugs, antibiotics, sleep medication, whatever, that's a big production because it has risks, it has legal implications. You have to have protection for the people, what have you. And after we did what we did in tissue culture, it became crystal clear that there was a antioxidant effect. There was a anti-inflammatory effect in human tissue culture, and that the metabolic engine of the cell, called the mitochondria, was upregulated. In other words, the efficiency of the metabolism in the mitochondria was improved. Now, with that knowledge, now came the big bucks. And Mr. Oshiro provided that. And we were able to study 13 living human beings who were subjected to athletic-induced stress. In other words, push-ups, sit-ups, a standard stress model for sports medicine, basically. And the way it was, they were their own internal control. The first testing was done after the individuals drank 3 liters of Kangen water, 9.5%, for a whole week. And then they were subjected to the stress. And blood samples, tissue samples, heart rate, blood pressure, all of those things were recorded. Then there was a grace period, and 2 weeks after that, they drank tap water, and the same identical tests were performed. And lo and behold, when it was all done, it became crystal clear that the Kangen water, 9.5, resulted in increased performance, decreased side effects from the metabolic stress and from the physical stress, quicker recovery, and also a measurable, simple measurable thing. Their red blood cell count increased by over 12%. Now, that's really important. I don't know what you know about runners, but I have a 35-year-old daughter who does 5K runs 3 times a week. This is huge. Mm-hmm. And every time the Boston Marathon is run, the Kenyans win by a mile. Why? Well, they live at 16,000 feet. Mm. They train at 16,000 feet. Their red cell mass, their hemoglobin mass, is off the charts compared to us at sea level plus or minus 1,000 feet. And what that means is the oxygen that they generate to put into their muscles and to put into their physical body is far greater and far higher, so their performance is better. And we showed that just as the only variable being Kangen water. And then we also collected samples for complicated cytokine tests. Cytokines meaning tests that involve deep inside cellular structures, messengers within the cell that cause inflammation, that do not cause inflammation, reverse inflammation, and a whole variety of different things. And we measured these, and the results are staggering. The results show that this water, compared to tap water, is a living thing that gets the human body to produce antioxidants, for example, by itself, and then in the liver, where superoxide dismutase, the most powerful oxidant that we make, antioxidant we make, is produced at more than 2.5 times the rate of Kangen water, of tap water in a stress situation. And that's huge.
Wow.
Huge.
So it's 2.5 times greater with the Kangen water?
Yes.
Wow. That's astounding. I know a lot of athletes that have given testimonials that just say that they feel better. They work, their lactic acid recovery is better. Times are better. That's fantastic. And, speaking of studies, I was actually told to go to scholar.google.com, and you can also look up studies on ERW, electro-reduced water, and different types of diseases.
Absolutely. And one of the things I want to caution you, John, is when you look at studies, they have to be relevant to the human condition. No one cares what frogs do. I'm happy to have beneficial effects on frogs or roundworms or flatworms or anything else. That's all very nice. But you're not going to buy a machine because a frog gets better. You're going to buy a machine because it really does something for your body that's good for you. And unless you can prove that within a human system, the Federal Trade Commission is going to say that's misleading and false advertising, because it doesn't pertain to John Swartstrom. It doesn't pertain to Horst Filtzer or his kids or your friends or your family. They're damn frogs, okay?
Well, speaking of that, I know we talked about a month and a half, actually 2 months ago, how you were saying now that the machine is in the FDA's office.
Yes.
And getting ready for approval.
Oh, no.
I mean,
not quite that easy. Problem with the FDA and our machine is they don't know how to classify it. There is currently no classification. When you want something approved, the first thing that the FDA asks, is there a predicate device? Translated, is there a device that's similar than yours? And when the answer is yes, you're already one rung up on the ladder, because then they'll say, well, this is machine X that your machine is similar to, and then they ask you to tell you what it does and how it's better than the previous machine, but there is a predicate. Something has already been established. The FDA has never ruled on a machine like water ionizers. There are water purifiers. There are water this and that, all kinds of things. So the first hurdle we have to jump over is to get the FDA to make a ruling that we have now a machine that does certain things and we give it a name. And the FDA is about to give us a name. We're actually that far ahead. Will they approve it? I have no idea. But the fact that next week I will be on a phone conference with the FDA, with our consultants, and they have only asked us one question about our machine, and that has to do with the pH 2.5 end of it. Does it really kill bacteria? The good news is that I have that data. I have, through the graces and through the cooperation and help of Enagic USA, been able to go to a laboratory, dump an ST501 on them, have the damn thing tested, and it's come out that it is EPA approved, not EPA approved, meets the EPA standard for sterilizers and disinfectants. And so that's huge. And I do think we're not looking at FDA approval next Wednesday, but I do think they will give us a category. Mm-hmm. And once that's done, we're on the way.
Because I think you said that they wanted the whole machine, the total machine, as a total health benefit. Right. Approved. That's what the FDA would approve.
In Japan, the Ministry of Health has selected one function of the machine for one segment of diseases. And that's not the way the FDA does it. You either got a machine that does X, Y, and Z, and not just Y, otherwise we're not interested.
Mm-hmm.
It's the way it is. And there's nothing actually, imagine that if they say, hey, this machine in all of its pH ranges and all of its different nuances has health benefits for physical health and for cleaning your vegetables, for doing all that stuff, because that's after all what you as a distributor and all your people under your 6A fellowship there, that's what they're selling. They're saying, listen, you can take this machine and drink it. And that's really what the main thing is. We're talking about health. But you put your strawberries and your lettuce and what have you, comes from the grocery store, you soak it in your 11.5 or your 2.5, whatever the appropriate thing may be, and that's a benefit.
Mm-hmm.
How many times have you been to Mexico?
10.
Yeah. Now, I've been to Cancun about 20 times with my kids and my family. We'd rent a condo, we'd rent, whatever. And because they had facilities, we had children, I'd go to the grocery store in Mexico. And you go to the grocery store in Mexico and they give you little packets of iodine that you're supposed to wash all your vegetables in because they fertilize with, manure and whatever. Well, you take that same thing, go to Mexico, you wash your vegetables, kills all the germs, makes it healthy. Sometimes I love to cook, and I like to cook for my family. I look in the refrigerator and so the vegetables are a little limp. I fill up a big jug of 2.5 water or beauty water. I throw that stuff in there. An hour later, they're plump. They look like a brand new. So this is a benefit, and that's what I want to do. I'm getting old. I'm retiring from private practice in a week, but I want to finish my life, my career, getting Enagic to be what it should be, not some kind of a thing that you can make a lot of money because you're selling it and you're selling the business. I'm not into that. I am into telling you that I want to say that this machine is the best damn machine you can buy. And it really, not through some cockamamie test or claim, it really does it because we have the proof. And the proof is in testing, in accredited laboratories, sanctioned by the National Institute of Health, in accredited laboratories with tests that are governed by the trial.gov thing, which means that your trials, that your experiments and how you test it is fully approved and sanctioned. And we're on our way with that. And we've done actually quite a bit of it.
Well, I know that you said that you couldn't eat enough fruits and vegetables throughout the entire day to get the amount of antioxidants you get in just one glass of the water, which is when you look
I said that I may have exaggerated about one glass, but you're absolutely right. Now that we know about the superoxide dismutase thing, damn right. It drank 16 ounces of water and you get a huge bang for your buck because the water doesn't contain the enzyme. The water makes the liver make the enzyme, make the antioxidant.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Now, also, if you can explain this real quickly, how an antioxidant or a fruit or vegetable gets turned into an antioxidant, the pathway has to go to your body real quickly and then get turned into an antioxidant, how this water is an antioxidant as soon as it hits your lips.
Yes, it is an antioxidant as soon as it hits your lips. And when it gets into your stomach and gets into your bloodstream, there's a rebound effect. And that rebound effect goes to your liver. And that liver now makes more antioxidant.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a new information that I've never heard before, which is fascinating and amazing. Also, I know we talked a little bit about this before with I had bad knees and stuff, and we talked about I was talking about the effects that I got on my knees, how I don't need anti-inflammatories anymore, and how the antioxidants in the water act as an anti-inflammatory.
Yes. Well, let me explain. And that is one thing I haven't published yet for a variety of reasons, but most of them monetary. But I can tell you that the water induces the formation of cytokines. Those are cellular messengers that will tell the cell, for example, to produce inflammation, or to not produce inflammation, or to produce this, that, and the other. Now, we've only tested 7 cytokines, but in each case, we show that we have cytokines that depress inflammation. And then we have cytokines that produce inflammation. And in both of these instances, the cytokines that reduce inflammation are the winners. When you have that water, your inflammatory response to trauma, to stress, to anything is subdued, it's reduced. So that's why people who drink Kangen water all of a sudden tell you, geez, my back pain is better. My hands, my joints. I've been a surgeon for 50 years. All of us have arthritis in our hands. I don't.
And did you have it before and you was helped out?
Yes, absolutely. And I remember my professor, he had these big, huge nodules because, I mean, this was a guy who did, thousands of cases a year. It was just a major figure in surgery, Dr. Cornelius Sedgwick. And his hands would be killing him when he got in his 60s and 70. Well, I don't have that. And it's probably because for the last, since 2008, I've been drinking Kangen water.
Now, is arthritis caused from acidic buildup in your joints?
We don't know what the hell it's caused of exactly, but the bottom line of virtually all of our maladies is inflammation. Coronary artery disease starts with inflammation in an artery, and with that inflammation, cholesterol and other lipids are deposited in the artery and they form a plaque. And the plaque is a raised thing inside the artery. Look at it like the old-fashioned pipes that we used to have in our houses, iron pipes. You run water through, your water has calcium. 20, 30, 40 years later, the pipes don't work so good, they're clogged up with all of that stuff. And that's pretty much what inflammation does. It does it in your arteries, it does it in your joints, it does it in your lungs, it does it all over the place. And it's a natural thing, but on the other hand, in certain genetically predisposed people, it's a malignant thing. I mean, there are people who have coronary artery disease and they drop dead at 40 or 35 because they have lipids and all that. So what I'm basically saying is inflammation is huge. Inflammation is the bane of our existence. If we could really subdue that, I have no doubt you could live to 150 years. I mean, you could.
Yep.
And Mr. Oshiro, of course, is going to live 120 years. We all know that. He's sitting on stage. And good luck to him,
Yeah. Well, I want to talk a little bit about the 2.5 real quick and then go into the competition. The 2.5 is pretty much the most powerful disinfectant on the planet because it's able to get into the mitochondria and kill the bacteria from the inside out.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Look, what happens to the 2.5 is it is a powerful oxidant, right? Mm-hmm. And so when you ionize that water, it produces the hypochlorite ion, which in a stable situation of hypochlorous acid is what kills every germ known to man. And that hypochlorous acid has been known for about a century and a half. It cleans up wounds and so on. But because it's a stable condition, after it cleans up a wound, after it gets rid of bacteria, it then damages tissue. Our product produces the hypochlorite ion, but remember, all ionized water decays the minute it comes out of the spout. So when you put it on wounds, it kills the germs, but does not damage tissue. And we have hardcore evidence that 2.5 pH water, Kangen water, kills every known bacteria on this planet, including viruses, including spores and prions. That's huge.
Even the coronavirus.
Oh yeah, no chance against.
Pretty much on contact, yeah. And why is it the number one thing used in Japan for different types of skin problems?
Well, I don't know what's used in Japan for skin problems, but let me say this. When you have a dirty wound, for example, and pus on it, whatever, that water will attack the germs, but not your skin. And that's the beauty of it.
And also, I know a lot of dentists too, that one dentist in particular had a patient come back because the bleeding wasn't stopping in the mouth. And the doctor had him swish it to 2.5 and it helped close up that wound. How is that 2.5 able to do that?
Well, first of all, it goes and eliminates the bacterial issue. And that's huge because the bacteria cause inflammation and then the tissue gets engorged and then you bleed, whatever. But I'll tell you one thing, one great application, and it's been done many dentists around the country, they do a root canal, they drain an abscess, and in order to sterilize that abscess, you had to do all kinds of manipulations, but tweaking it and having it drain and what have you, using 2.5 irrigation in those cavities, in the abscess cavities, allows them to close it and put a stem in it and save the tooth. It's pretty huge.
That's
I'm not a
amazing.
dentist, but I do know, and I have a colleague actually, and she has been doing this for years, and the results are insane. Good.
Now, I've always told people that probably the hardest thing to do is to, we do a lot of demonstrations, and a person will get on the internet and they'll see a machine that's advertised for half the price. It's usually cheaper because it is cheaper. And I know you've done extensive work on some competitor machines and all the ones that are out there. And can you tell us what you found and why the Kong machine is the best one on the market?
All right. The Kangen machine is the best one on the market because of two things. The amount of power in watts that it subjects to the electrodes that then cause the ionization. And the second thing is that the actual plates of electrodes that we use are the best in the industry. They are long lasting. They are expensive. They consist of titanium and platinum, which is a noble metal. And nobody in the rest of the industry has figured out how Enagic has got these two metals together so they're totally inseparable. They can't break them apart. The bond is insanely permanent. And that makes a machine that with the appropriate maintenance, because we do get issues because of the contents of the water, like minerals like calcium, magnesium, and so hard minerals that if you don't clean the machine periodically, they'll settle on the plates. No other company has that same, none. And I checked probably 10 or 12 actual machines. I can give you an example of one machine. I'm not going to mention it, don't want to be sued or anything, but there's a machine that we actually compared side by side, producing 9.5 pH water. When it comes out of the spout, each machine, Kangen and the competitor, produced 9.5 pH water with an ORP of around 600. 5 minutes later, Kangen water machine produced 9.5 pH water, ORP of 600. Machine number 2 produced 9.5 pH water, ORP of 300. 5 minutes later, an
Positive 300?
of 0. Useless. So that's the thing. The machine's quality is unassailable.
Yeah, I remember talking to our head scientist at the office. They happened to be in the office for, I think it was for a grand opening or something, but Eli and I and Bob Gradelli were talking to him, and they asked him questions, and they basically said, well, if you stuck the competitors' plates in our machine, they basically melt. And I know that the amperage, the amps in our is at 2.5, and I believe 90% of the competitors is at 0.5. So it's 5 times the amount when you compare that with also with the SMPS technology, switch mode power supply, which they use on all their machines, which are the machine's power switching on and off while it's making the water. With ours, we use a transformer, which makes a consistent amount of electricity every single time. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, I don't know. Listen, I'm not an electrical engineer, but I do remember Ohm's law. And when you have 240 watts at 2.4 amperes consistently applied to a plate, 2 things are going to happen. If the plate is good, like ours, with the platinum and with the titanium, it will continue to produce that energy. If the plate is flimsy, it'll melt. Yeah. It's like when you take your battery in your car and you take a number 8 wire and you stick it directly onto the positive of your battery and ground it, the wire just melts. Mm-hmm. Ours doesn't. It's all there is power. ORP, wattage, and amperage.
Now, I think that pretty much covers that. I mean, there's nothing that really can compare to the Kong machine. They just don't have the technology, they don't have the ability. And also ours is the only one that actually has the cleaning cartridge,
yes,
and which keeps it, very clean, and you have to worry about the buildup on the plates. And we also add have the saline solution to increase the 2.5 and 11.5.
Sure.
Which no other company has the technology to do. You want to talk a little bit about the EPA?
Well, I can talk about the EPA. The EPA governs things like sterilizers, pesticides, sanitizers. It's in that group. It's actually the pesticide and sanitizer division of the EPA, and they govern products that clean surfaces. Most of them are in a bottle. Most of them you spray on your counter, you clean. They cover things like your hand washing sterilization thing. And our machine has been tested by an independent government-approved laboratory. And the EPA has certain standards. And the standards are for surface sterilization and sanitization. And you need to kill 4 organisms. One is Staph aureus, and one is methicillin-resistant Staph aureus, and that's a big one. And typhoid organism and Escherichia coli, those 4 organisms, they need to be killed in less than 30 seconds, completely. And you need to have 100% kill out of 100 plates. And our machine does that in a heartbeat. We got it done. We have the documentation.
That's probably my favorite water is that 2.5 strong acidic water, just for all the uses, what it can do, and it's simply amazing. Well, I just want to wrap this up here. I don't know if anybody has any other questions, but Dr. Filtzer, if you could sum up just your experience with Kangen water and seeing the results that you're getting, and being able to recommend this to somebody, for somebody of your stature and your ability to buy one after just one day drinking the water, with all that you're trained to do and say in medicine at Harvard University, to test things out and things like that, to make up your mind about this machine. Do you want to leave us with some closing comments about this for people who might be on the fence about thinking about buying this machine, or say, man, I don't know if I should buy it, it's kind of expensive? I tell people, the machine, when you put the side-by-side comparison of bottled water or having water delivered to your house, it's pennies compared to that stuff. And if you can just give us a closer.
Well, let me say in closing, basically, I bought the machine without even asking any questions. On the other hand, from an economic point of view, I was a practicing surgeon and I made good money. So the money issue, hey, I like it, I'm gonna buy it. I was able to do that, and I don't mean to be, effusive here, but the point is, I had the money, I bought it, it was no big deal. But when you dig further into it, people who have less finances but want to buy things wisely, and price is not always the best indicator. So here you go, and if you're into bottled water, if you're into really wanting the best water, you can go to the grocery store, you can go to Culligan, or you can go to anybody else. But the point is, our water, even if you incorporate the high price, is the biggest bang for your buck if you amortize it over the lifespan of the machine. I mean, the machine lives 20 years or more. Matter of fact, I was at Fred's house, Fred Brown's house the other day, at his store, and a guy brought in a Sunnis, okay? And the Sunnis was, I don't know how old, and he said, it's not working. Fred cleaned it, and the thing was working great. Turns out it was 24 years old. So the thing is, if you take care of it, you've got a product that gives you the best water. Basically, I don't know the exact number, I'm not good at that. But when you compare it to buying Arrowhead, Dasani, all these waters in the grocery store, my God, you can't do better than a Kangen machine. Sorry.
Well, I want to thank you so much. And I got your book, by the way. I was looking for it around here. I couldn't find it offhand before the start of this webinar. But you do have the book that you wrote with the clinical studies on athletes and how it greatly improves their performance. And by the way, we forgot to mention that they psychologically, what happened with them?
Well, they just felt better.
They had an overall sense of well-being, better sense of well-being, in your words, right?
Yeah. And much quicker recovery. You go to a sport. Let's say you play a soccer game. I mean, I grew up playing soccer as a kid because I'm German, And you play a big, long, tough match. It takes you 3 days to get over it, particularly if somebody tackles you or whacked you or whatever. These people, the next day, bang, they were fine. And we actually have approved psychometric tests that attest to the fact that this is real. This is not some thing conceived by the individuals, because they get asked it's 120 questions, and it ferrets out the ones who did or the ones who didn't. And the ones who drank the Kangen water did far better than the ones who didn't. End of story.
Well, hey, Dr. Filtzer, I want to thank you again for being there, for helping us out, and for all you do, and so passionate about, and not about the money, not about this and that and the other. And I tell all my people I work with, I say, don't be concerned about the money, be concerned about people's health, and the money will come. And I see that that's, what that's coming from you too, is that we want this water to get out there because of what it does for people's health. And for those of you guys who are interested in the book, where can they find that book, Dr. Filtzer?
Different distributors have it. I actually have never gotten involved in it. I just wrote it. It's a Magic's book. They pay me to be their medical advisor. I make no profit of it. Get a hold of Fred Brown. A number of other distributors handle it. I don't. But I will say this. I'm hoping that when I meet with Mr. Oshiro in March, that we're going to really get Enagic at the helm of this and get involved, because distributors need to have ammunition.
Yes, yes.
You need to have what they can say, not what they can't say. Telling somebody prohibition doesn't help them. Telling somebody to say, hey, we got this thing, we got this product here, and you can say, damn it, we are an antioxidant. We do help people. We do produce a human effect that is positive and healthy. And that's what I want to do. I don't want baloney. I want the facts. Remember, Dragnet, just the facts, ma'am. That's what we
exactly, and that's what we should be doing in our demonstration, is just giving facts, facts that we know are true, because that's the most important.
Your demonstrations are very clean, and the thing about the colors and the pH, I think that's very legitimate and very effective. But people tend to, it's hyperbole. They tend to say, well, alkaline body means health. Let me tell you something. Every person, not every person, but 95% of all people that die have a pH of 7.4. Do you understand? They're alkaline, and they're still dead. So, it's much more complicated than that. But the fact of the matter is that the alkaline water does have absolutely powerful benefits. And that's where we ought to be going. And that's what we ought to be proving in hardcore analysis, data, research, that you don't have to worry about making false and misleading claims. Here's our documentation. Bam, 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 bam. That's it.
Yeah, and it's going to be great that we can hopefully one day get this FDA approved, and the more clinical research, the better.
Yeah.
Especially with the things you're doing.
And if the goal is to get an FDA approved, that's a noble goal. But the goal should be, once that happens, that you don't stop, that you continue to improve and even improve the product.
Yeah. Well said. Thank you so much, Dr. Filtzer. It's great talking to you. Thank you for being so gracious with your time. Whenever I call, whenever we want to do these, it's fantastic. I want to thank everybody for being here. We having a lot of people asking if this is going to be recorded. It is recorded. We'll send the recording out to anybody who wants to see this. And hopefully we'll have Dr. Filtzer on again soon with some more questions and research, etc. So thank you so much, Dr. Filtzer.
You're very welcome. Be well. Take care.